Hello everyone, this is RWBY12 here at RWBY Studios and RWBY12 Plays, and today we continue our adventures in Summer Rose Court. In the last episode, RWBY ended up meeting with the delegates of the Faunus delegation. These ended up being Blake Belladonna and Adam Tauros. And she likes Blake. She finds Blake to be a rather refreshing change of pace compared to all the people that have surrounded her, and has invited her to stay both at the castle and to join the Summer Rose Court. Adam, on the other hand, he seems to be a bit difficult. And I'm sure that many of you guys will say that that's putting it mildly. But basically, Adam wants to change everything that's going on right now. And he thinks that because of the fact that they've been waiting for 3 years, they've waited long enough. And to an extent, I can understand his frustration, and I somewhat agree. However, things don't just change immediately. So, RWBY is trying to figure out a good middle ground where things can be expedited, but at the same time, they go through the proper legal channels and nothing goes awry. Glinda and Ozpin were trying to make it sound like they didn't have the manpower or they didn't have the coordination, but the Faunus are willing to do everything themselves, they just need permission. And that's ultimately what it comes down to, is that Adam wants to get permission to tear down the menagerie walls and to open up trade with the menagerie and the rest of the humans. And while they all agree that the idea of the menageries it was a good idea at first, things aren't working out the way they had expected. And although it wasn't covered in the last episode, I don't think, we do still have that lingering, looming piece of information that Blake was denied access to the castle and had to get an official summons to come meet with RWBY because of the fact that Torchwick and his men were denying her access, despite the fact that Torchwick had given her a pass to enter the castle. So that's something that's going to be addressed probably sooner rather than later, but I don't really know. But yeah, aside from that, we also did a little bit of training, and we're deepening our connection with what they keep referring to as Crescent Rose. We still only have a peripheral idea of what Crescent Rose is, but so far it seems to be a magical energy that's connected to the Rose line, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more explanation here either today or coming up very, very soon. So without further ado, let's get started.
Ozpin and Glinda take me outside the city to the isolated temple where the major portals reside, the Curia. We're escorted by a squadron of the castle guard, all on horseback. Yang and I ride our dragons, of course, drawing attention as we go. Celica's in a good mood, but that means different things for sand dragons, especially wild ones. I have to keep a closer eye on her to make sure she doesn't snap and bite at anyone who decides to ride too close.
You know we have a fine selection of mounts back at the stables.
He's only teasing, but I still feel the need to defend my choice. I'm a Rose, but I'm also a Jalong. The good luck pendant rests under my armor, kept in a leather cord around my neck. I think it'd be good if people remembered that. I need a reminder myself now and then. Twisting her neck back to look at me in the eye, Celica squawks at me. Her gait doesn't waver.
Look where you're going, silly.
Celica chirps and straightens out, neck ruffles frilling out in a gesture that I've come to associate with happiness. This is the most exercise I've gotten in a while. Both dragons are just as eager to explore the world as their master is.
Just be careful not to run around the city in your robes. Why not? Think of what a good angle that is to spin. The romance of a lost princess, you know? We need to take way more advantage of that. RWBY could play like she attained enlightenment out of the wilds or something. People eat that stuff up. That might also ruffle the feathers of more than a few conservatives.
It's just a thought. Well, I would like to improve relations between Vale and the tribes. Considering you and I know them pretty well, we might be in a good place to merge them into the Summer Rose Court. What is the Summer Rose Court anyway?
Representatives from each plane, and including ours. It's to ease communications between the planes, to strengthen ourselves as their allies. When Ruby's parents were still alive, they had a council of their own. Those who weren't lost in the attack broke away into separate factions. But the Xiaolongs have been isolated from us for much longer than that.
Taiyang was a court member once, you know.
Dad? Really?
Yeah, but not for very long. He tried merging the Xiaolongs and the Roses many, many times. Finally, he got frustrated and left.
How come he never told me about any of this?
Well, it was before we were born.
His disinterest in the court is what made his tribe an attractive place to hide you, Ruby. He did a good job. The day I found you was not the first attempt I had made to search the deserts for the last rose heir.
What made you decide to come back one more time?
A hunch. Though you could have been anywhere. All we knew was that you were alive. That was it. You weren't fully attuned to the throne, but it still wanted you. No one else. It told me as much.
Crescent Rose spoke to you?
What? No. No.
He pauses.
Of course not. Crescent Rose is just what we call the power that rests in our plane. It cannot speak. But it's impossible to deny that it sometimes appears to have a will of its own. Most of the court abandoned Vale to return to their own parts of the plane when they realized that they couldn't wield Crescent Rose. Ozpin was the only one crazy enough to try.
That's a lot to take in.
The only remaining court members are Glinda, Crow, and myself. So really, it's just Ozpin and I. That will change soon. Rebuilding the court will give us strength again. I hope.
I echo the sentiment privately. The sky darkens as we arrive. Clouds gathering thick enough to block out the sun. Yang keeps glancing up, forehead wrinkling with displeasure. It looks like it's gonna rain again.
I know. I can smell it in the air. Makes me nervous. The dragons might get sick if we push them through another storm like we did on the way here.
I rub Celica's neck, feeling her thick muscles under my hand. They'll be taken care of while we're inside, right?
Of course. Are you ready, Ruby?
Nodding my affirmative, I slide off the saddle and look at the entrance to the Curia. Like Beacon, the exterior is protected by stone walls, but the material is different. The white walls of my kingdom are all cut from the same quarries, but these are dense and gray. What's more, there aren't any seams in its construction. It makes me pause before I steer my dragon closer to put my hand on the flat surface. It's completely smooth. One solid piece.
Very astute, Ruby. So it's a big wall. What's so great about it? Beacons are taller.
Glinda makes a small noise of disgust, but refrains from commenting. Yang tightens her grip on the reins to look around.
There doesn't seem to be a gate. What are we supposed to do, fly in? They're deciding whether to let us in. And if they don't?
Ozpin doesn't answer. Don't be silly, Yang. They're expecting us. Then I turn to Glinda. They made this with magic, right?
And no small amount of engineering knowledge.
I wonder how quick it is to make a wall out of magic. Are they stronger than our walls? Or do the wizards not rely on them too much since everyone on the inside is capable of repelling a grim attack? We should look into making more fortifications like this within the city. I mean, if they'll let us.
We'll see about asking them. They were happy to enchant most of our weapons. So, further collaborations between us shouldn't be too difficult to engineer.
A low rumbling sound distracts us. I notice a thin black line dividing some of the stones where none had been before. It becomes more and more defined as the noise increases in volume. Taking a few steps back, I realize the doors have been there the whole time. Swinging on unseen hinges, the walls part and we can see inside. There's a courtyard, not too much further in. People, movement, activity.
Guess that means come in.
Glinda instructs the guards who came with us to remain outside. Only Yang, Osmond, Glinda, and I are allowed in. It's very quiet inside the Curia. The only noise is the sound of hooves clattering and claws scraping as we enter. The enclosure is huge. I even spot some greenhouses and what looks like to be a plot of land for gardening much further in, with wizards silently at work.
Home. Try not to break anything, Rose.
Even the floor is made of that same gray stone, though as we move further in, I notice a carefully maintained amount of greenery as well. I don't notice any children. The youngest person seems to be an apprentice around my age, running across the enclosure doing errands. A wizard comes to greet us, his lips thinly sealed into a frown. Glinda raises her hand in greeting, a bright light appearing on her palm. He mirrors it. The two wizards stand like that for a few seconds. Then, she moves aside, folding her hands behind her back. Osmond takes that as his cue to step in.
We're here to speak with the Archmage. It's time to make another attempt.
I swallow, throat tight. The wizard just nods, gesturing for us to wait. On one perimeter, I spot buildings, all of them fused into the main wall like small buds. The center of the enclosure is kept clear except for the portals themselves. Wow! I'd seen trade portals before. Arches made of metal and stone, smooth and seamless, just like these walls. They exist outside the Curia, halfway points between here and Beacon. We had passed a few such places on our way here. Those were always busy and moving, with magic humming alive in the air as goods were transported to and fro between planes. But they were nothing compared to these. You've never seen them before? I shake my head. Just drawings. My parents never took me here.
There are 5 major portals in total. They each have a name and a story. These are sacred things. They need to be protected, guarded. Only Rose Monarchs and Curia members are allowed to see them dormant.
They are ancient, out of place among the obviously more modern walls.
When humanity found them, we studied them until we gained the tools necessary to build our own.
The lesser portals.
But those are still incapable of transporting people.
Until the major ones become activated. Speaking of which, 2 of the 5 are in complete disrepair. Yang nods over to them as we wait.
What's up with those? Broken portals to planes we no longer have access to. How come?
I look to Osmond, who merely smiles at me.
Why don't you tell Yang what we remember, and I'll fill in any gaps.
Well, I know one was intentionally sealed off. According to the legend, everything started there, the conflict that shattered our planes. We don't know for sure who or what is on the other side. But since it has such an ugly history, they call it the Scar. It had another name, a more formal one. I rack my brain, wishing Osmond would step in. He seems far too amused at my attempt at a history lesson. Luna Fracta?
Very good, Ruby.
Yang nods thoughtfully. Then she points to the other one, tilting her head in a silent question. That one's the coolest! As a girl, I read about it all the time. Nobody knows what it is. It's been broken for as long as anyone can remember.
And now all we have are guesses and theories to what happened. They call it Magnihild.
Handlers come to take our mounts. After a lengthy amount of instruction from Yang, they promise to ensure the dragons are kept in the driest environment possible. The threat of oncoming rain makes the air more humid than usual. I'm glad to see some of the younger wizards whispering fire into the air around the dragons to keep them warm and dry. Then there are the other three. Myrtnaster is the portal that goes to Michglas. They've got some of the greatest engineers in existence.
Not to mention that mage knights have remarkable precision and control over dust in combat. Who has enough dust to waste in a fight?
They do. And I'm gonna butcher this name, I'm sorry. And Lan Zihua is that one over there. I point to the bright green portal, the one made with jade, ebony, ancient teak, redwood, and gold. It leads to Hepping? At a loss again, I beseech Ozpin with my eyes.
Heping.
That plane is a lot like ours, but their people are theocratic, kinda. So we probably need to get one of their dragon monks to join the Summer Rose Court if we're going to be friends.
We'll send them several of our mages in exchange. It sounds like a piece of cake if they have dragons. We've already got plenty in common. We'll need them if the grim threat gets any worse.
The dragons?
The monks.
And lastly, but not least, oh, dang it. Ozpin?
To'akuhain.
Right, that. To'akuhain is the portal that leads to the Spiritus Bellatorum. They're sort of odd in that they have no magic at all. Like, none. It just goes poof when they try to do it.
Poof.
Poof.
So we need them because
their fighters are really formidable. And, on top of that, they've always been friendly. Getting their help should be the easiest, but almost all communication with them ended about 2 years ago.
How does she know that? Did she read it? She must have read it, because she's been gone for like the last 7 years.
Really?
Last we heard, they were in the depths of civil war. Communication staggered and then slowly stopped altogether. As for the other two planes, well, Glinda, how did you put it? They've grown bitter and cold to us after nearly a decade of no human contact. And their isolated cultures in general, not very trusting.
Yep, there you go.
And now we need to open one of them. This is so cool! There has already been some correspondence between us and the other planes. They should be aware that the major portals will be active again. What about their portals to each other? There are none. Vale is a hub. Travel to the other planes is only possible from here. Once we make an attempt, the reverberation will travel across temporal space to...
I step in to translate. The planes are our neighbors, and they're expecting us. There's a door on the other end, then a hallway, and then a door at their end. Now we're gonna knock on our door and let them know that we want them to open their door. So that we can gain...
Glenda's getting more annoyed as she talks.
So we can go across the hallway that only appears when both of the doors are open.
Nice! Ugh. So, which one shall we open first? Keep in mind, it will remain open until you decide to close it. And that opening, or sealing of a portal, will drain you mentally and physically.
I know. I'm still considering which choice is the best one to make.
Then until you do, we'll begin preparations for the ceremony.
Flanked by Glinda and Ozpin, I step closer to the area where the portals are kept. One of the wizards joins us, a crystal blade clutched tightly in his hand. Slowly, more wizards approach, forming a semicircle around me, humming words for entry, for distance, for doors. I realize at that moment that I haven't heard a single one of them make a sound that wasn't a spell. The wizard who greeted Glinda takes a spool of white yarn from within his sleeve, twining it 3 times around my left wrist. And then another one approaches with the knife. I back away. Whoa, 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 whoa! Why does everything involve my blood?
Your link to Crescent Rose is by virtue of your blood. It will only take a drop.
That's what you always say. The mage nods, pricking the back of my hand with the point of the knife. Even if it's just a small cut, it makes me wince. Around us, the mages begin to sing, sibilant nonsense that I can't begin to translate. Glinda takes my elbow to steady me. Behind me, I hear Yang muttering something dark under her breath. The mage wipes the blade off onto thread, and then the length of it shivers with power. The small speck of blood bleeds into the fibers, spreading out and out until the entire thing burns scarlet.
Currently, Myrtnaster is the only one we can open. Preparations aren't complete for the other 2.
Well, that makes our choices easier, doesn't it?
Myrtnaster will be the easiest to open regardless. The connection between our plane and theirs is strongest.
Then that's the one I'm doing first.
I was already planning on going for Myrtnaster anyway, although I'm not gonna lie, Toakuin was very, very tempting. But I guess we can't choose it yet. Communication with that plane has been sparse as of last year. According to Torchwick, the flow of dust from them to us has almost run dry. Maybe they've been having trouble with Grimm too. That doesn't matter. We need to establish trade with them and get them communicating with us again.
It might be hard. Did the last guy they sent through, die? On the same night as my parents.
Well, that's suspicious. Yeesh. Well, between our stellar good looks and your charming queenly nature, it should be easy, right? Keep in mind, on the return trip, you will appear outside the Curia.
You can control where a person winds up?
Our plane doesn't approve of non-royalty or those outside the Curia gazing upon the portals.
He appears at Yang over his spectacles.
With a few exceptions, of course, for those closest to the Queen. Controlling where one exits also prevents potential enemies from coming through the portal directly into the heart of the Curia. Smart!
I see!
We'll set up a greeting party for you outside. Don't worry. You won't be zapped away to the furthest reaches of the plane. Well, probably. Always the ray of sunshine, Glinda. Thank you for that.
The mage nods and, taking a spool of yarn, begins to unravel it as he walks to the portal. Step by step he approaches, and I see the flickering of magic begin. It buzzes, an ache between my ears. By the time he reaches the portal, it's awake and alive. Around us, the mages are singing louder than ever. I'm sweating now, feeling the pressure rise in my whole body like I am that string, slowly getting stretched out further and further. It tightens around my wrist harder than shackles. As he walks through the portal, the trail of red yarn stretches taut between us. Everyone falls silent. After about 15 minutes, I feel a tug. Power surges through the yarn into my body, lighting me up like a weather vane in a storm. I stand rigid, teeth grit and nostrils flaring, whole body shaking as I feel something move inside me. It travels through the string, into the glowing heat of the portal door. Next to me, I hear a whisper. Very good. Thinking it was Glinda, I lift my bound wrist and make a questioning noise. But she doesn't respond. After a moment, I realize she's not even looking at me. Then whose voice was that?
He's on his way back. 1 tug means all is fine. 2 means he needs more time. 3 is for an emergency.
Just as she finishes, the mage returns in a jumble of limbs, falling onto the ground and gasping. I do the same, falling back a few steps until Yang catches me. My chest rises and falls sharply with how hard I'm panting.
It's done. The connection has been made. Now we can travel safely.
Can I take this off? Glinda nods and Yang helps me remove the yarn from around my wrist. A group of younger apprentices help the mage up, carting him away without another word. A bite of sympathy stings me. I think he got the worst of it. The throbbing in my skull finally lessens to a dull roar.
They usually do. That's just part of the sacrifice. He's being well compensated for it. Trust me. Are you ready to go through the portal, Rose?
I nod.
Good. I must stay on this side to watch over the gateway. At least for your first visit. And my connection to the Crescent Road still leaves me too vulnerable to travel through the portals at this time. If anything were to go wrong in the portals, we'd be better suited here. Wait, what do you mean by go wrong? Well, let's just say that I need to wait for the Rose Monarch to establish contact before further work can be done. Michglas is a trusted ally. You will be treated as an honored guest, and no danger will befall you. I trust you'll be able to cope without me.
I hope so. I mean, yes!
One more thing. The people of Michglas are a little brusque.
Meaning?
Meaning subtlety and tact are lost on them. Put more kindly, they tend to be very straightforward. Be brutally honest, and you'll be fine.
Yang and I step forward into the portal.
Oh boy.
Yeah! Who the hell designed that thing? Come on, it wasn't that bad. A little weird, maybe.
A little? I'm gonna be sick.
At least we made it through in one piece.
Thanks, Ruby. I needed the reminder that mini pieces was an option.
The first thing I noticed when we come out of the portal was the cold. Icicles hanging from the walls nearby, and the ground is completely covered in snow. This is awful.
Yeah, because Beacon's a little chilly compared to the desert, but this place is butt-bustingly cold.
The portal is located in a training ground. A large wooden area is off to the side. It's a pretty impressive sight. Soldiers run drills under the watchful eye of a quartermaster, while knights in full plate clash in full contact duels. Most of the knights are fighting one-on-one. Polished weapons glint and glimmer, and not just from the sunlight. Glinda did say they were good at using dust. Maybe as part of the negotiations, I can get them to teach us some new tricks. The sound of ringing steel hits my ears, and I turn to look. Most of the duelists have stopped to watch a group of 3 knights take on a single challenger. The lone fighter is a woman, with long white hair streaming behind her. Her armor is bare steel, plainer than most of the other knights that I can see, though there is a shimmer to it that indicates some sort of magic. All of that pales to the fact that she's taking on all 3 opponents alone. And winning. Wow! Yang, look over there! I nod over to the duel. One of the knights thrusts at the white-haired woman's head, only to get parried aside as she dances around her opponents. The 3 try to flank her, but every time they move, she darts aside. She's making them attack on her terms, not theirs. Her offhand twists and draws a sigil in the air. At a word, ice fires from her fingertips, trapping the feet of one of her opponents while she deals with the other 2.
Not bad. Not really the same as fighting a Grim, but she's definitely better than the drunks Torchwick's got.
Yeah, but that's a pretty low bar. Admit it, you're impressed. A soldier notices us and approaches.
Your Majesty, I understand you're here to see the Duke.
Yes, the Duke! Yep, exactly where we need to go.
If you and your companion will wait here a moment longer, I'll take you to him.
Of course. He bows and leaves.
So, who is this Duke anyway?
Duke Guntram is the ruler of Michglas. He's been since my mother was the queen.
You ever met him?
I don't think so. There were a few knights who came through the portal, but none stayed very long. They always looked uncomfortable in Vale, like the city put them on edge. Just then, the soldier returns.
Your Majesty, if I may?
Right!
That's a cool design, actually. Kind of like him. I am surprised that they decided not to use someone like Ironwood as the king of Michglas. I mean, obviously this came out long before Volume 7, but still, it would have been a very interesting thing to see Ironwood as the king here.
It's emptier than I thought it'd be. Not that that's a bad thing. It's probably better that we do this with fewer people around. And if he was planning an ambush, he'd probably have more guards.
Announcing Her Majesty, RWBY...
Ah! Alarmed, I shuffle closer to the soldier, getting up on the tips of my toes to whisper in his ear.
Her Majesty RWBY II of the Rose Dynasty, Queen of the Kingdom of Vital and surrounding territories, Inheritor of the Rose Throne, Defender of Vale.
Taking inspiration from me, Yang grins hugely and grabs the soldier by the shirt, pulling him over with her own instructions.
What the heck? Are you kidding me, Yang? Why? I haven't even read the full sentence. The 23rd got me. Her Royal Highness Yang the 23rd of the Xiaolong Confederacy, most revered Archduchess of the Western Expanse, Queen's Champion, and all-around badass.
Seriously?
You knew he had to say it. It's not every day that I invite foreign royalty into my halls. It's even less common since the portal's closed. To what do I owe this pleasure?
Oh shoot, what's the address for a duke again?
I don't feel confident here. Well, I mean, if she goofs, she's only been queen for a little bit, and she has been gone for several. I know it's not dukeness. I think I goofed. Did I goof? I've actually got, like, anxiety here.
Your lordship, long has it been since our court...
That will do, Miss Rose. You are not here to miss words. You're here for soldiers. You're here to ask me to send my people to die, so that yours may live. Let's not pretend this is anything else. Be direct, be forward, be honest.
I want to save our people. I hope it won't come to that. With your help, we stand a good chance of stopping the Grimm, and I think maybe this time we can stop them for good. But my people can't do it on their own. If we stand together, if all the planes fight to end this now, then maybe we won't have to lose anyone else to the Grimm ever again.
Unless you plan to talk the monsters to death, honeyed words and empty idealisms won't help you.
Does that mean you won't uphold the treaty?
It means I am anxious about sending my knights to serve an untried, untested, and unproven girl. Not that it matters. Our discussion of the terms will have to wait. There is a judicial matter that demands my attention.
Can I ask what crime is more important than a visiting monarch?
High treason, actually. One of my knights betrayed their sacred oaths and is about to be punished accordingly.
I see. Would it be alright if we watched? I'm sure our histories are a bit dated regarding Michglas legal rights.
I doubt it. Little changes in Michglas. Come. We'll have 2 monarchs deliver judgment against this traitor. If we're lucky, maybe we can get some entertainment out of the ordeal.
Concerned, I whisper to Yang. What do you think he means by entertainment?
Nothing good. Come on, we're not going to find out anything else just by waiting here. I'll be right beside you.
The Duke nods to one of his attendants, and the servant throws the doors to the hall open. Well-dressed nobles funnel in, taking their places around the hall. The faces I see range from sad to just plain furious.
Whatever this knight did, they pissed off a lot of people.
Last to arrive is a pair of guards, dragging a slumped figure between them. A chain rattles every few steps, running from the manacles around the prisoner's wrists. The guards shove their captive into the middle of the hall, sending him sprawling. The prisoner lands on 2 knees with a thud, a curtain of dark hair swinging forward to block any recognizable features. All I can see is a strong jawline, with the faint impression of an old bruise beneath one eye. The prisoner's gambeson is ripped, with broken straps hanging off the jacket. Looks like someone ripped the armor off and didn't bother to be careful. The prisoner straightens as far as the manacles will allow and stares calmly up at the throne, ignoring the hushed whispers around the crowd surrounding us. Looks less angry than I expect. Resigned is more like it.
And who is this?
All rise for His Grace Guntram of Feldberg and Her Majesty Ruby Rose of Vital. A sea of courtiers stand to face me and the Duke as we take our seats at the head of the hall. I will so never get used to that.
Proceed.
With respect, Your Grace,
Lancelin Schaefer is...
The correct address for a knight is Sir. It's at night for the training ground. She looks freshly scrubbed after her bout in the field. Her hair is still damp from a bath.
That was a quick bath for noble or knight.
Though surprised, the noble keeps collected in the face of the sudden interruption. Sir Schnee, this trial is based around the fact that this shepherd is no knight. Isn't it a bit early to call it a fact when your Duke hasn't even passed judgment yet? The knight looks at me sharply. Exactly. And until Sir Lancelin is sentenced, you will address my knight by the proper title. Or should I take it as an insult against my own honor? I also find it most interesting that you choose to expedite this trial without informing me. I believe the trial date was supposed to be next week, no? The noble turns his nose up. Sir... He rolls his eyes, and I can almost hear the quotation marks around the word. Sir Schnee bristles, and her hand tightens on her hilt, but she keeps her silence. Lancelin stands accused of falsifying a noble lineage, that they, a commoner, had the notions above their station and tried to falsely claim the honor of a true-born knight. This commoner deceived the knight commander, their comrades, your grace. For that alone, any of our knights would be stripped of their title. As it is...
You have made your point, magistrate. Be seated.
Do you have anything to say in your defense, Lancelin?
No, Your Grace. Only that I did what I had to so I could serve my plane.
Sir Schnee?
Sir Lancelin is as good as any that I've trained and loyal to a fault. They deserved a knighthood as much as the rest of my troops.
If only that were true.
Why does it matter that Lancelin, Sir Lancelin, why does the title matter?
Only a nobility are allowed to earn knighthood.
Why? If someone is a good fighter, wouldn't it be better to have them protecting you?
The noble families are sworn to me for a reason. They've proven their worth time and time again. More importantly, they know that if any member of their house betrays the crown, the entire family will be exiled and their rank given to someone more worthy. It tends to keep them in line.
That does sound effective.
As a commander, this person has no reason to be trusted, especially after what they've done. Lancelin Schaefer, you deceived your fellow knights and this court to achieve your own desires. Your actions broke the trust placed in you, your peers, and your commanding officer. That alone makes you a disgrace to the knights who have gone before you. Yours is an honorable ambition. I'd even call it a valorous one, but it is not your place to wish for such an honor. Therefore, I hereby banish you from this court to die in the frozen wastes beyond our borders.
Your Grace!
Silence! I am not without reason. Lancelin, you will be taken to the Hall of Judgment. There, you'll face one of our guardians of old in a trial by combat. In the unlikely event that you win, I will give you your shield. Lose, and whatever is left of your mangled body will be exiled. You want to be a knight? This is your one chance.
Suddenly, Sir Sneeze stands up, bristling with barely restrained fury. I invoke my right as Lancelin's commander. No, Commander! Hold your tongue. Your Grace, Lancelin's crime happened under my command. I am responsible for my knights, and I will fight in their stead.
Sir Schnee, I hope you know that if you lose, you both will share the same fate.
I do.
I suppose it is your choice to make. Take them!
A catter of guards escort Lancelin away. I can see them try to reach out to Sir Schnee one last time, a look of beseechment shining bright in their eyes. Turning her head aside, the Knight Commander pays them no mind. She marches out of the hall, several of her knights rising to follow her. We move into the corridor leading to the Hall of Judgment. Two huge armored knights escort Sir Schnee to the front of the crowd, one on each side. The Duke and his entourage of old nobles follow him, silent as the grave. Sir Lancelin trudges along behind, the rattling shackles on their wrists, a grim punctuation to every step. Do they all have to be so quiet? Yang and I bring up the rear, followed by the knights supposedly under the Duke's command. I think they want to support Sir Lancelin and Sir Schnee more, though. Sir Schnee doesn't look afraid at all.
Right? Look, Sir Lancelin over there is more scared than Sir Sneeze is.
I hide a wince and jab Yang with my elbow. It's Schnee, Yang.
Oh? Geez, sorry about that.
These names are a little hard to say. A tense silence settles in again as we're led further down. The hallway splits and Sir Schnee immediately shuffles to the right where the rest of us are herded to the left. This all seems too sudden. My mouth opens as I turn my head to follow Sir Schnee's path. Wait, Sir Schnee!
This recording's been going on for an hour. My voice is starting to waver a little bit. I apologize. But we're in the middle of the scene and I can't just stop it. I want to find out what happens.
And the three knights stop and turn to look at me over their shoulder. Sir Schnee's expression is one of expectation. Maybe a little impatience, too, or annoyance at being stopped. I swallow my words at first. After I take in a deep breath to steady myself, I manage to continue.
Be direct, be honest, be forward.
Don't die. Tershni stares at me for a few seconds, processing my command. Before I can start beating myself up over the blunt words, the corners of her mouth quirk up into what might be a smile. She tips her head with a slight nod, the most acknowledgement I've seen from her, and then her escorting knights start bullying her back down the hall. Despite the silence, my chest somehow feels a little lighter.
We don't usually wish criminals luck in Michglas, Your Majesty.
Michglas is so weird. The Hall of Judgment looks more like a grand cathedral than any kind of court. The ceiling looms high above us, its massive glass dome covered in a thick coat of frost. Arched windows of stained glass frame the room on either side, running its length from left to right. They seem to depict various parts of a grim tale. I see a girl with black hair and a regal gown taken into the woods by a huntress. The next window showcases that same girl rescued by 7 knights in intricate armor, their pauldrons adorned with the crests of the shape of a snowflake. The next image that catches my eye looks like a woman with gnarled antlers and an outline of a crown above her head. Her skin is a dark red, blood maybe? And she wears a pitch black robe. Her thin hand extends an apple to the girl. Some old legend, perhaps? A sudden blinding pain stabs me right between the eyes. I feel them begin to water, my entire body trembling as if my bones were trying to rip their way out from beneath my skin. I stumble, my heart pounds in my ears, deafening me to silence. I cannot scream. My blood is fire! A voice I've never heard breathes into the shell of my ears, dripping venom with every word. Not a legend, a falsehood. RWBY? A warm hand claps onto my shoulder, fingers callous and a grip firm. Yang's voice brings me back to my senses. Yes? Looking away from the window helps me recover, grounds me in here and now. You looked weird. You okay? My crown has never felt heavier. Yes, I'm fine. Just hearing voices. I think I might collapse. When Yang takes her hand back, I fight not to wobble on my feet. If you say so. Visiting Queen does not vomit on allied nobles, RWBY. Get a grip! Keeping my gaze low, I shake my head and busy myself with studying the rest of the chamber. The room is an oval. Everything inside is chiseled from black marble. We're ushered towards the row of seats. The arrangement seems to adhere to our rank. I sit at the highest tier with Yang and the Duke. Perks of being a queen, I suppose. From my vantage point, I make out what looks like a raised platform in an orchestra pit? People in black and white robes file into the pit and onto the choral platform just above. They wear cold masks, featureless, but somehow familiar. Yang leans close to me, muttering in my ear. They kind of look like the wizards back home, don't they? You think so too, huh? Each member of the choir hums in perfect harmony. I don't understand a word of it. Their music is different from anything I've ever heard before. Equal parts haunting and joyful. A far cry from the wild tempos and fast-paced drums of the Zhaolang tribe. As they sing, something strange begins to happen. Is that light? Motes of soft, white luminescence rise from their lips, drifting aimlessly upwards, like fireflies almost. Oh wow! So the magic of Michglas is language-based too.
Correct, Your Majesty. Unlike Vale's language, our mystical tongue is far more of a challenge to learn.
I detect a strong note of patriotic pride in his voice, and I almost pout at him. In what way?
You'll see in a moment.
Without saying a word, not even an introduction, the stern-faced conductor turns to us. The room goes quiet. After bowing to the audience, they turn around and regard both choir and orchestra for a handful of tense moments. That's the oddest trial by combat I've ever seen. A sudden flick of their wrist sends a shower of golden sparks rushing towards the dome above us. The entire room goes pitch black, air resonating with the sound of a low and steady hum. I feel Yang tense up next to me. A moment later, Sir Snee takes center stage. The look on her face is one of absolute determination. She stands without moving, the subtle cant of her head casting a dramatic shadow across the sharp, regal lines on her face.
Though the penalty issued is death, you have chosen trial by combat in lieu of requesting a formal slay of execution. Is this correct, Knight Commander?
Yes.
Should you fail, both you and Lancelin must forfeit your lives. Is this understood?
Ice blue eyes stare into the darkness. Her lips move, but none of us can hear what she says.
Excuse me?
Her blade hums as she unsheathes it from her belt.
Sir Lancelin.
In the light, both woman and weapon shine. Her hair seems to glow silver, the dark of her eyelashes in stark contrast against her pale skin.
Insult one of my knights again, only if you wish to join me in the arena.
An undercurrent of whispers flies through the assembly. Though the announcing noble is full of bluster and righteous indignation, a gesture from the Duke quiets the crowd.
Begin.
Then, some hidden cue inspires every violin and cello into action. Several voices within the choir also shift to a higher pitch, holding the note while a shaft of brilliant white light flares into existence before us. The orchestra and choir swell at his command. The music they create radiates out in palpable waves. I still can't understand a word of it, but how it hits us feels different somehow, more electric. I lean over and whisper to Yang, but where's her opponent? I look in time to catch Sir Snee bow to the dark. As she does, the circle of light at her feet begins to extend, stretching from where she's standing until it joins another at the far end of the platform. Yang's hand covers my mouth as I gasp. The new source of light reveals an armored figure kneeling in wait before the Knight Commander. What in the world? Sir Snee is dwarfed several times over as the figure stands to its full height. The handle of that sword is bigger than she is. This is what they meant by trial by combat? How's he even gonna move? At that size, an entire suit of armor would have to weigh hundreds, if not thousands of pounds.
The knight shall carry out its task without fault. Of that, there is no question. I don't understand. So, another knight fights Sir Snee for the kingdom while she's defending the life of a different knight from the kingdom? No.
There's no one in the suit.
What?
It's magic! It's a giant empty suit of armor powered by the singer's magic! On an entirely technical scale, this is amazing! I bite my lip. I have a bad feeling about this.
So it's her versus, what, your entire falsetto goon squad?
Yang! Out of the corner of my eye, I see the Knight Commander bow to her opponent.
Sir Snee knew full well what risks awaited her.
The knight gives no warning before attacking. Fast! Spinning on a heel, it lashes out with an overhead chop slanted directly at Sir Snee. There's no hesitance behind the movement, only every intent to kill. Its weapon is a blur. I can't watch this. The Knight Commander, however, has a look of supreme disinterest in her face. She waits until the last moment to dodge, somersaulting backwards to avoid her opponent's blow. Yeah, that's it! The knight reverses its grip without stopping. Even removed as I am from the action, the sheer power behind the next attack slaps me in the face with a gust of wind. How can it move like that? Horrified, I realize the next move isn't going to be as fortunate for Sir Snee. Though Sir Schnee dodges its second and third blows, a quick snap of a fourth sends her flying backwards in a shower of sparks.
That didn't look pretty.
At least she landed on her feet? I'm amazed that the Knight Commander hasn't been launched through the far wall.
Is that the best you can do?
Sir Schnee raises her weapon to her opponent. The rapier gleams in the light. When she rushes forth to attack, it's reflected like quicksilver whistling through the air.
I've met novices with better form.
Her first strike takes the massive figure just as it raises its weapon. A blast of magic shoots forward from the tip of her sword, knocking the figure back. Unbalanced, it stumbles in an attempt to escape the multitude of thrusts Sir Schnee rains down on it.
Nice!
Sir Schnee wastes no time in pressing her advantage. As the knight falters, she leaps between its arms and vaults from its chest in a graceful backward arc. The woman is a blur of white as silver on the stage. Her sigil allows her to strike anywhere and from every direction. She ravages the knight, striking it until it stumbles unbalanced from foot to foot. Once, twice, thrice, her rapier swings nearly 5 times in an instant, each blow sending white-hot sparks flaring across the stage. Something that big won't go down easily, but even if she keeps it off balance, it isn't enough. The knight recovers just as Sir Schnee attempts to pierce the hollow of its knee. Rather than fall, it grabs its blade in a reverse grip and tears the weapon free from the stage in an upward slash, a torrent of debris sent hurtling in every direction.
Oh my duck!
Yang moves before I do, throwing her arm in front of me the moment it happens. I expect chaos, screaming, a rush of bodies in the dark, each intent on saving themselves from the oncoming barrage of debris. But nothing comes our way, not even a pebble.
You've nothing to worry over, Your Majesty.
The Duke has yet to tear his eye away from the battle. He gestures to the stage once I settle back into my seat, Yang beside me.
We are well protected.
I follow his gesture back to the stage. There, in the dark, I find what looks like a faint light coursing from the edge of the battleground. Their battle is a contest of inches. For every step the knight takes, Sir Schnee moves 5. She refuses to engage the thing on its terms, rushing about the stage in a dizzying mix of acrobatics and footwork. I am exhausted just looking at it.
They're deadlocked if this keeps up. Something's gotta give.
The knight can't match her pace. Whenever it attempts to close their distance, Sir Schnee merely leaps out of reach and then punishes it for overextending. But a single misstep is all it takes. Sir Schnee dives headlong into the fray after unbalancing her opponent yet again, her rapier seeking a fatal purchase in the space between the knight's mail and helm. No, wait! Dropping its weapon momentarily, the knight throws the unbalanced portion of its body counterclockwise. Sir Schnee barely has enough time to brace herself. As it whirls, her opponent reclaims its dropped blade and intercepts the Knight Commander mid-dash. Yang sucks in her breath through her teeth. Though Sir Schnee manages to land on her feet yet again, the momentum carried her further backwards still, the iron of her greaves screaming as they grind divots into the floor. My mouth drops at what happens next. The knight leaps from one end of the stage to the other, the sheer massive size of it cracking the onyx beneath its feet. As it drops, Sir Schnee is dwarfed in its shadow. The massive size of the knight is eclipsing her entirely. The entire room quakes from the power behind the strike. Do you think she... The stage is in ruins. When the cloud of dust clears, I see 2 giant slabs of broken onyx have risen around the knight, shards of debris still raining down from the ceiling. No one speaks. Even members of the choir have stopped their song. Oh no. I'm out of my seat before I realize I'm moving. Yang and the Duke are hot on my heels as we head down to the chamber floor. Rubble lies in sporadic piles across the marble floor, deep grooves and divots left behind from where the knights fought. Just as we get to the bottom, one pile of debris shifts, revealing a sheen of armor. Sir Schnee? More of the wreckage crumbles away, and my heart sinks to see one massive hand emerging from the destruction. The night construct gets up on all fours as bits of broken marble shift, revealing a small shape crumpled up underneath. Shirshni struggles to her hands and knees as the knight moves aside, freeing her from the debris. A gash across one eye drips blood down to her face, pooling in the corner of her mouth and in the crevices of her dinged and dented armor. The knight commander straightens up, stumbling away to safety before turning to face the construct. Drawing her sword once more, she lifts it, pointing it at the construct. The tip of her sword wavers with an unsteady hand. Another round! She wipes her face off on the shoulder, but the cut from her face continues to bleed freely. Blinking, she licks her lips and hoarsely cries out again. I still draw breath! This fight is not over!
Enough of this farce, Sir Schnee. You forget your place. Is it any wonder those under your command spit in the face of our laws and traditions?
I remember my place well. It's that of a knight of Michglas. And, as such, I stand by my decision. I swore an oath to treat those who serve me with honor and dignity. Any punishment that would be delivered unto them should be given to me instead. So, kill me. I offer my life in a place for my knight.
By all the rights, Lancelin should not be a knight.
If Lancelin isn't a knight, then why are they set to receive a knight's punishment?
That is no concern to you. However, since Sir Schnee is so adamant about receiving Lancelin's punishment, then I shall indulge her. You, sir, have lost the duel. As such, with all the authority of my office, I banish Weiss Schnee and Lancelin Schaefer from the kingdom.
Stepping forward, he grips Weiss by the upper arm. Pulling her close, he speaks lower, so that only those of us on the platform can hear.
Consider this a mercy, my debt to your father repaid.
He lets her go with a shove, raising his voice.
Guards, escort these castless beyond our lands. I allow you to keep whatever you carry on your back, Schnee.
This is too much! I can't just stand here and let this happen! Your Grace! The nobles all turn to look at me. The Duke glares much harder than before. Sir Schnee's eyes widen in surprise, but then narrow in suspicion. Your Grace, I believe I have a solution to your problem. It also resolves the matter that caused me to come to your plane in the first place.
And what is the solution you propose, your majesty?
Since Sir Schnee is to be exiled from Michglas, I would request that she join me in Vale as a member of my court. She would not be here to cause you further trouble, and in doing so, you would honor our ancient agreement to have a Michglas noble on my court.
You... what? No! Her punishment has been decided. It must be carried out.
Your Grace, my punishment is exile. Does it matter where I go so long as I am gone? I would be honored to have Sir Schnee join me. Yeah, so she should come with me. I turn to Sir Schnee. I think it's really noble of you to defend your knight like that. I would be honored to have you join my court and represent Michglas. Yang pulls me aside.
Are you sure, Ruby? She seems a little stubborn.
You're worried about someone being stubborn? Fair point. She's protecting someone she cares about, Yang. I raise my voice for all to hear. That's the kind of person I want on our side. I thank you for your trust. If my Duke consents, then I'll join you.
Are you certain you want her, your majesty? There are people who are equal in prowess and less recalcitrant.
Sir Schnee scowls, but she doesn't disagree. I don't know what that word means, but I am certain I'd like Weiss. And Lancelin, too.
That looks like a feminine name, so...
Please, Commander, take us as well. Turning away from her, I'm surprised to see 6 of Sir Shnee's knights staring back at me, a determined look on their eyes. Sir Shnee speaks up before I can say anything, though. You fools! Think of your families. What purpose would going into exile serve? They know we are sworn to you, with more than words. They will understand. You need people you can trust at your back. Who better than us? The last bit is directed at the Duke, as if daring him to say anything. The Duke does not, but simply stares at us in silent disapproval.
Just get out of my sight.
Sir Snee's mouth, opening for retort, clicks shut. She seems a bit resigned, but eventually nods.
Do you need to make any preparations? Say goodbye? We have already taken care of that, Commander.
Already? You assumed I was going to fail, Dristan? At that, all the knights shift on their feet, sheepish. But they don't dare look away.
You do tend to take on, tasks with very slim chances of success, Commander.
You...
Never mind that, Commander. You can only carry what's on your back, but we'll gather the things from your quarters and meet you there.
The knight in gold grins down at Weiss, looking positively roguish.
And admit it, you'd miss us, wouldn't you?
Sir Shnee scowls, but somehow it seems a little softer as she glares at all of her knights.
Don't think we're finished discussing this.
The knights ignore her tone, only snapping a salute. As you say, Commander. There's a flurry of activity as her knights and a handful of squires ready themselves for departure, marching out the doors and away from the arena. Yang taps me on the shoulder.
Ruby, where are they gonna stay?
There's some empty barracks and stables. I figured we'll house them there for now and build more if we need to. Sir Shnee can stay in the castle since she's the formal representative.
Already thinking ahead, Your Majesty?
An escort returns us back to the portals after snapping the shackles from Lancelin's wrists. The Duke stops Sir Shnee before she goes through.
And what shall I tell your father when he returns from the expedition to the mines?
She gives him a scornful look.
That I've made his decision for him, and my sister is the sole remaining heir.
And then she's gone. I find that I can't look properly at the Duke's face in her wake, and so I only offer him a small bow before passing through the portal. I stumble when I land back home just outside the Curia walls. I barely avoid falling flat on my face. Lancelin and Sir Shnee are already there. The young knight has her commander's hands clasped tightly between their own.
Commander? I know that they... this is going to throw me off quite a bit. I know that they use the same sprite and they just mirror it, you know, flipping the image back and forth. But the fact that her scar keeps shifting eyes is going to... that's going to throw me off a little bit.
Don't start. I know you would have done the same for me. She gives Lancelin's hand a squeeze before pulling close into an embrace. It's short, but heartfelt. Stepping away, Lancelin looks from Sir Shnee to myself, visibly blinking away tears. Your Majesty, I must at least give you my thanks.
We couldn't just let them kill you, Sir Lancelin. I'd have nightmares.
As Sir Shnee is bound to you in service, so am I. I am an exile of Michglas, but trained as a mage knight. And I would be honored to be your knight if you'd had me. Of course! I'd love that! A few mages arrived there to greet me, and I'm told that Glinda is still managing the great portal that lies within the Courier walls. I shakily wonder if I should wait here or head back to the castle when Sir Shnee's knights begin making their own way through. They're already making comments, apparently uncaring that we can hear them.
We're gonna boil out here if we're not careful.
Well, these people seem to manage, even with such primitive engineering. They must be exceptionally hardy.
I don't know who Bedwear is. I can't tell if that's supposed to be a male or female. So I'm going to go with male for now, and I guess I'll correct it if I'm wrong later. Don't press any of the locals into being your guinea pigs, Agravain.
But what if I ask them really nicely?
Stop! We're not going to get ourselves exiled from 2 kingdoms in one day. Oh, Sir Safer, is that a challenge? However, will we manage to resist?
Sir Schnee, who's been surveying the area, looks back at her people. The first syllable off her tongue has them all at attention. Let's get settled in first, and we can handle any issues as they come. Yes, Commander. Glinda approaches me from inside the Curia, magic still humming around her before she whisks it away.
A success, then. The Duke sends his knights.
Yep. Sort of. I'll explain it later. For now, I turn to Sir Schnee and her knights. I wonder if they're worried about leaving Michglas or joking around to hide their fears. They might never return home. For now, our new guests will need somewhere to stay. Also, Vale is much hotter than Michglas. We'll have to find them more appropriate gear before someone gets heat stroke.
Of course. We can make space for them in the backs. They're not the most luxurious of quarters, but I hope they will be acceptable.
The knights nod in agreement. Wait, what about Sir Schnee? Glinda approaches Weiss.
And you are?
I am Sir Weiss Schnee, Knight Commander of the Knights Offaland. At your queen's request, I am joining the council as a representative of Michglas.
We do have a few rooms available in the castle. Would you like to take one for yourself, or would you prefer to stay with your people?
Weiss doesn't answer immediately. You should stay in the castle with us, as, you know, a protector. There's an empty room right down the hall from mine. I am flattered by your regard, Queen RWBY. But I should stay with my knights. She bows to Glinda. The barracks will be perfectly sufficient.
Whew. Okay. I'm going to save and call it good, because although this video is probably going to be very long, it's much longer than you're expecting. According to my counter, it's been going on for 1 hour and 36 minutes, and my voice is tired. So I'm going to call it good here. Thank you for joining me. This is Archive of 12. I shall see you in the next video.